This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
It's too bad you didn't record the first or the last 90 seconds of this.
Yeah, well, that's the benefits of controlling the record button.
Apparently, there is something to be said for that. It would have started off. Can you imagine the comments if you had it recorded?
Yeah, I can. I dealt with them for about a decade.
I love it. I'm letting you curate this week, although
I don't like this trend. I don't like this trend where you just start the show by punting to me. So now I'm in charge of producing, recording, editing, posting, and the editorial. I gave you one story that you gave me one. I will credit you for giving me one. Now, giving it to me 4 minutes beforehand and then the date of the article is 32 days old. That's a little Adam of you. And I need you to fight the instincts of doing the Adam of it all, because that's a terrible instinct, especially if you're going to make me do the editorial. But if you want to do it, I will play ball. I was prepared for this nonsense. So if you're going to force me, I will say the story of the week, although for reasons that will remain off air, it is the bane of my existence. But I will say the story of the week is the unhinged ICE recruitment campaign that they've put up, which includes posters like the one I just put on screen. This one's, it's not the most egregious part of the campaign. Some of the verbiage.
Wait, who's that supposed to be?
It's supposed to be a buff, like ripped out Uncle Sam who just took off his top hat, which you can see there at the bottom, and threw on an ice cap.
Huh. Can I see like a traditional Uncle Sam? Because this guy, not only buff, he looks like like he's doing hormone replacement therapy.
Well, I mean, given our HHS secretary, I'm not entirely surprised by that analysis. But you can see a traditional Uncle Sam. I'll show it. I'll throw it up right now. Let's see here. It's right here.
Yeah. So, I guess, it's different depending on if it's straight on or on the side. But it's been quite by the way, I don't know that you can emphasize enough how much impact, especially in LA, that the ICE raids have had.
No, I don't think you can. I mean, in Los Angeles, they've really, I would be curious to speak to somebody who lives. Well, and I actually have. I had some house guests in town recently who live in Oklahoma, and they were asking me, is it like what we're seeing on TV? Is all of downtown blanketed? It's like, no, but it is definitely having more of an impact here than I'm sure it is in your communities, in the middle of the country where the focus has not been shifted yet, at least. I mean, allegedly that's going to come to every neighborhood, but I don't think it has thus far.
Yeah, part of I think I told you, if I didn't, I had a jury trial recently where one of the jurors refused to come to court because of the fear of the raids. Yeah. And presumably that was somebody who was here legally and had made it through the jury selection or the jury assembly room. Although, that's a very good question now that I think of it, because sometimes the jury lists are taken from driver's license or voter reg, and a lot of times those have people who are undocumented on their list, especially in California. But like I said, one or two of them of the jurors in the last trial mentioned it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a legitimate concern for a lot of people, and without getting too specific, there are people in my own personal life who have been unable to show up for things out of concern, and it's really heartbreaking to see, especially when it's someone who has been in your life for quite a while, and all of a sudden there's this legitimate fear that was not there for the past several years. It's a little tough, but that's just the reality of the climate that we're in right now in Los Angeles and Orange County to a certain extent.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this to you. I don't know if it was on or off air. I thought at a certain point when agriculture was dramatically affected, that would kind of roll back a little bit of this, because that's a real problem.
Yeah, we talked about that. I don't know if it was on air or not, but I agree with you. And I really thought that was going to be a turning point when recently in Oxnard, there was that clash where a bunch of farmers were swooped up, and then there was, vehicles that were damaged by people who were protesting against those kinds of raids. But it seemed to move just right along. It didn't seem to cause the impact that I thought it might.
Yeah, and then legal cases are winding their way through the courts as well, restraining orders and things of such. And so I think we're going to get some answers fairly soon.
That would be encouraging. I mean, there's certainly been, I believe there was a ruling last weekend that Mayor Bass celebrated that kind of affirmed that they couldn't just keep doing the indiscriminate raids. And then sometime this week, there was a story out of Los Angeles where a bunch of agents rolled up in a Penske van and jumped out at a Home Depot and grabbed a bunch of guys. So it's certainly been a back and forth between the administration and the courts.
Yeah, it's going to have to be decided, obviously, once and for all, because the back and forth and the fear is something that's palpable.
Yeah. I don't know if that's being felt necessarily in other places. I mean,
I think it's extremely exaggerated, amplified, not exaggerated in the sense that it's hyperbolic, but I think it's amplified, I guess is the better word for it, in Los Angeles, because the raids have really spread like wildfire in Los Angeles and had, I mean, obviously, hospitality, agriculture, the service industries are the ones that are impacted first and foremost.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason that the administration picked Los Angeles, because it's just the perfect melting pot of all of the different, people who are the fabric of what makes the city work, and coming here and using it as a testing bed for potentially moving to other cities. Los Angeles was, the obvious choice. It's a heavily blue city in a heavily blue state. And, there is quite a bit of the population that may be of questionable status.
And it's, at some point, we're going to get some resolution, I think, sooner rather than later.
I hope so.
I saw another, speaking of policies, I sent you a story. You were ready with your story. I gave you mine 4 minutes before. You see this?
Yeah, I did see this.
Okay. So this is apparently a new law in Virginia, which
I don't know how new, because when I was ribbing you, I said I think this story was posted in early July, so it's newish, but not this week. I don't think. Right,
not this week exactly. And the interesting thing is, I don't know that it's being interpreted right.
How so?
Well, it says it requires your consent to collect the information about reproductive products. Now, what that means is if somebody is going on to buy online or order online from Walmart and they're in Virginia, this law apparently applies to them. And then this is kind of, if you do not consent, then you can opt out, or you avoid searching, as it says, or purchasing these products. So I think it is
that wording is curious to me. Avoid, as opposed to you are not allowed or you are prohibited. Avoid is a strange legal word in my layman brain to use.
Right. And I was wondering, and I think we need to do a little bit of a dive on it, whether this is, when they, as when there's cookies that are involved and it says you can manage your preferences or things like that. Is this comparable to that, or is this data collection that has a more nefarious ramifications of it, is what I would want to know. How do you take it?
I don't think that it's necessarily a cookies thing. I think that it's, it's akin to a cookies thing, but the cookies, I think, is more about tracking your data across internet usage, whereas this seems to be a little bit more specific and having to do with a specific subset of products, where in this sector of the website, or the reproductive health type of thing, there would be a separate set of cookies on top of cookies, if that makes sense to you.
Right.
Yeah.
And so apparently it's complying with the law. But anybody who's watching who has any history of the law, or maybe we can do it this week to take a look. I'd love to see what the statutory kind of and the legislative history was, and whether this was a compromise or whether this was the goal to begin with, because Virginia would seem to be a battleground for parts of these competing laws that have been at least argued about in the recent months and in the post-Dobbs era.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. I know you're a friend of the general universe that we exist in. Vinny Tortorich still lives there, so I could reach out to him and see what he knows as a local resident. But anyone who's in the legal community who might be near the nation's capital who has insight on this, please let us know in the comments.
We've got a local counsel there who I'm going to talk to about it. It's a very interesting issue to me, and before we spin it one way or another, I'd like to get a better handle on it. But it's an interesting issue to me, whether or not you opt in, opt out, and you put your finger on what maybe kind of irked me intuitively, which was you can opt out of viewing.
Yeah, the avoid thing is very strange to me, and I would also be interested to know whether or not this is completely on the consumer, or whether or not, I would imagine that this website looks like it's Walmart, whether or not Walmart has an obligation to track and or share this information with others as well. That would be interesting to me. I don't want to spin it, as you said, one way or another before we have real information. So thankfully you have local counsel there in the lawyer capital of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Then the last story, I don't know if you saw this, but we've covered the Karen Reed trial and we've covered Alan Jackson. And there's been a lot of chatter this past week about the fact that Alan joined the civil team. Have you seen that? I see you smiling.
I mean, it's a case out of Malibu. There's not much LA news that gets by me there, Mark.
So why don't you?
So there was a successful, is he a baseball player, I believe, who was driving his car. Some say erratically, some say he was speeding. I believe he says that he was fleeing from people who were trying to he was involved in some sort of a road rage incident. He was driving down PCH at purportedly speeds in triple digits, and he was going around something that locals have called Dead Man's Corner, and he lost control of his car, and he ran into a few pedestrians who were Pepperdine students, if my memory is serving me correctly. And he has now found himself in a civil lawsuit over those fatalities, and Alan Jackson has agreed to join his legal team, and I believe head his legal team. And so Alan, after his success in Massachusetts, is headed out west back to home, and he is heading this case of a successful Malibu baseball player who has found himself in trouble over a wrongful death situation.
And at the same time, joining Karen's legal team apparently in Massachusetts. So he's going bi-coastal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, there was a lot of the chatter is, why would he do that? Why would he do that? His firm has civil chops, so to speak. So I don't know why people would be necessarily surprised by that.
I didn't quite get that either. I did see a lot of, what is he thinking? And it's like, he's a lawyer with experience in these realms. What do you mean? Why? It's 30 miles from where his office is. It's not. He went to Massachusetts and did this for 2.5, 3 years. Now all of a sudden everyone's freaked out that he's going halfway across the county. I was confused.
Right. It's probably in a lot of ways closer to home than Pomona is. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's certainly much prettier drive. No shade to Pomona. I drive through there all the time. It's lovely. But
so what was the story that got the most traction for you this week in your LA Mag world?
The most traction, certainly we had a guest column from our friend Ben, who wrote an article that got quite a bit of traction on social, but I think that had to do with it being shared by a few other accounts. But for me, I do think that the one that I highlighted at the top of the show was pretty big. And then also Russell Westbrook did a basketball camp for survivors of the Eaton fire. And that one was something that really caught people's attention and caught people's hearts. And I think a lot of people liked and shared that story. So that was the other one that sort of got a good amount of traction this week. Yeah,
he's something.
Yeah, hometown kid makes good.
Oh, he's just that you took the words right out of my brain.
Yeah,
hometown and always revered. And
he's been doing these camps for years, and this particular year he just added on a day and did it specifically for Eaton fire victims. And that's a feel good story, and I'm not surprised. I knew before I put it up, I knew that was going to perform very well, and I was very pleased to be vindicated in that expectation. But he's been a contributor to the community since he was a member of it and into his NBA career, and this is not surprising, but it is endearing.
Yeah, I love it. Kudos to him. I love it. Well, Gary, thank you for taking time out on a Sunday away from the family. I appreciate you. And we'll go back to giving each other loads of grief off air.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you as well, Mark. And say hi to Pops over your shoulder there. And we will see you next week.
Thanks, Gary. See you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/Reasonable Doubt Podcast.